Good day, and here we are with the Eastern Front, ladies and gentlemen. I've wanted to play this particular part of the campaign for a long time, actually, because I've always been very interested in the Eastern Front. Now, the game's going to run a little crappy, and it actually runs that way when I'm not recording for some reason. I can only assume it's because I'm using a much more modern graphics card than when I played this a while back. It seems like the RX 480 does not like OpenGL, and I think that's what this is running in. So we're actually getting a grand total of 40 frames per second, but this is a very complex level, so I imagine just about on anything it probably ran kind of crappy. It's the actual game itself. And that is really cool. Now, this, of course, is not really based on too much reality here. Also, why is that guy with a Luger? Why has he got a Luger? He's a German sympathizer! Shoot him! But, yeah. They would not have crossed during the day. This is straight out of Enemy at the Gates. But you gotta remember, back in 2003 when this game came out, you know, Enemy at the Gates was still a fairly new movie, and people really liked it for whatever reason back in the day. And even I liked it. But once you learn more about the Eastern Front, you realize the movie, while brutal, was not brutal enough. And also, Ron Perlman was in it, which was really, really cool. And he actually had a really cool scene in it. Enemy of the Gates is decent enough, but there's a lot of real snipers out there that they should have gotten a movie other than Vasily. And I wonder if he actually did exist, because when you actually read a bit about it, it seems like he might not have actually been a real person, and there were some actual real snipers out there that got more of a kill count than he did. They really should do a movie. They might already be a movie, possibly a Finnish movie on old Simo. And Simo's a very interesting character. Of course, I'm just completely talking over all these guys getting shot, but since this is ahistorical, I don't really feel too bad about it. Because they would have crossed at night, not in the middle of the day. The Soviets weren't very good at the beginning of the war, but they weren't this bad. And that's one of the big problems. The Soviets really did not do a very good job early on in the war, but that was mainly Stalin's fault in many respects. And also, he had killed off most of the really good officers. One thing I did read, now once again, when you read about the Eastern Front, you gotta take a lot of stuff with a grain of salt. Because there's a lot of ass coverage there. And boom! We got down to 24 frames for a second there. But there's a lot of ass coverage when it comes to the Eastern Front, though. And one of the reasons why there's a lot of ass coverage is, well, nobody wants to look like they're really stupid or anything like that. And there's even something I read where, they were trying to say that just before the war, they were getting back all the great officers and stuff like that. Also, why has that guy got a Luger? That guy's a German sympathizer. Someone shoot him. Also, this is ahistorical as well. They had plenty of rifles, just not enough ammo. There's all sorts of stuff like that in this game. But, you know, once again, we're going for more epicness. Now, this particular part here, I saw this on X-Play when this game first came out back in 2003. And on X-Play they were like, also, why are the sandbags glitching out? That's weird. But, okay, on X-Play they were talking about this, like, you don't get a gun with the... Oh, what, really? Bullshit. No plane would fly that close. This game is not historical. Where's my Cheeto dust? It's like, literally, they just use Cheeto dust like fucking, cocaine. Okay, see, that's ahistorical. Why are the graphics glitching out? That's weird. But yeah, this was something they really harped on back in the day. And it was cool. I mean, Medal of Honor did this kind of with its D-Day level. Run! The game's glitching out! No! Oh, the truck went away. What? I don't get what the glitching out is for. That's weird. I never did that before. Well, there's a truck there, but it's glitching out. I think, yeah, there it is. See, it keeps it's teleporting back in. That is weird. It wasn't doing that the other day. Huh. Very strange. Also, that is really cool back there, but the game just lags like you wouldn't... Run! Yeah, there's a truck there, so theoretically I should be safe. Or not. Well, it's one of those things. It's kind of interesting that there's a glitch there. I wonder, let's see something real quick. Alright, and we're back. And it's not glitching out because I'm actually using a different screen resolution. I didn't think that would actually make a difference, but it is. So now it's not glitching out. That's weird. That's the problem when you're running a game this old. And it's not like there's any update mods for this either. I've looked. There was one, but it was on some Russian website, and I couldn't tell how to download it, and I wasn't about to risk it either. So that is an annoying thing. So now we've got a slightly, this is a slightly higher screen resolution, but none of this is widescreen. I actually do that in post, where it'll fill up the whole screen. And that's historically accurate, having to change the barrels of the machine gun. Run! But yeah, this was a big deal back in the day. I still think Medal of Honor Allied Assault's better though, just because D-Day was a little more, you could do more, but this is, and this is once again not historically accurate, but they didn't do stuff like this back in those days. Oh, and you gotta love this. Okay, this could actually be historically accurate. Yeah, it's like instead of him actually fighting on the front lines, he's just shooting his own people. Now, I've read many differing accounts as to whether or not the commissars even had power in 1942. But how much they shot their own side, I've read instances where they didn't shoot them that much, or if they did, it was only once or twice. Once again, it's just, you gotta, it's, the various sources will differ at times. There really should be like a mod that'll fix some of these graphical issues. Because when I don't record, it runs just fine, but when you do record, and I've even tested it with other recording software. But yeah, when you study the Eastern Front, you realize just how much more brutal it was than any other front in history. But then you also realize just how much misinformation there is out there. It used to be a lot worse prior to the fall of the Iron Curtain. But now we can get a little better look as to how things are going on. There's all sorts of books on the Eastern Front. The Eastern Front's pretty much forgotten in the West, though. I guess because it didn't directly impact us, even though it kind of did. But the Eastern Front is definitely something I recommend studying, but it's not for the squeamish in the slightest, ladies and gentlemen. The Eastern Front is just... so many people got killed. You know, something like on the order of 20 million Russians died. Well, they weren't all Russians. You got to keep that in mind. You can't conflate the Soviet Union and Russia. Russia was only a part of the Soviet Union, but 20 million Soviet citizens died on that end, and that's a lot of them. But one of the things you also got, it's also kind of a grayer conflict in many respects, because it was two power-mad dictators going at it. And thus we have the very first level. If I had played this back in 2003, I would have been pretty bloody impressed. I have to say that. And we'll talk more about the Eastern Front in the next episode. And so, I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good, Stalingrad 2003, because that's kind of a fun movie. I'll talk about that later as well. But ultimately, I'm GeneralLotz, wishing you good, blah, 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 whatever makes you happy.